Well, we have 1 week left and 5 spots still available for the playoffs. Who's going to clinch them this week? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at these games and give some predictions on them. So we're going to start things off here with the Pittsburgh Steelers going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The only playoff implications on this one are the Steelers potentially making the playoffs, or if the Steelers lose this game, other teams have it easier to make the playoffs. But overall, the Ravens have locked up the 1 seed. There's nothing that'll really change for them. They probably end up benching some of their starters. Mason Rudolph's been looking pretty good. He is going to be the starter for the rest of the season, it seems. And I think the Steelers are going to have a big game. It's a must-win against Baltimore. It's in Baltimore, yes, but this Baltimore Ravens team is probably going to bench players like Lamar Jackson for rest so that they don't get injured going into the playoffs. So I do think the Steelers pull off a pretty big win here, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Up next, we're moving to a critical game in the AFC. The Houston Texans going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. This game is almost guaranteed to be a win and in, so it's a bit confusing why they put it on Saturday night. The loser can, in theory, still make it, I believe, but it is a very convoluted scenario as to how it would have to happen. So it's win and in for these teams. Lose, and you are basically done for the season. And that being said, CJ Stroud just is that guy. I think he goes into Indy and just puts down the Colts, makes it not even really close. I think the Texans that come into this game end up winning by a pretty healthy margin. I think they win by a solid maybe 5 to 7 points at least. All right, moving into the Sunday slate of games, there is no real playoff implications on this one. The Cleveland Browns going to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. This game is a meaningless game, so it's going to be tough to predict it, but I will take the Browns to win this one just because the Bengals are going to be trying somewhat, the Browns are going to be trying somewhat, but it's really not much of a try-hard game. Up next, we have the Minnesota Vikings going to Detroit to take on the Lions, and this one is going to be big. The Vikings are vying for their playoff lives. The Lions are vying to maybe get that number 2 seed. This is going to be a fun one, but with it being in Detroit, I feel like Detroit will do a lot better of a job of taking care of the ball and being able to beat Minnesota at home to be able to keep that path open for the number 2 seed. All right, moving now to Tennessee, where we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Jaguars have been in a bit of a skid, so the Jaguars could very well lose this one in Tennessee. That being said, the Jaguars' playoff hopes will be on the line. I feel like the Jaguars do enough to rise to that occasion to clinch the AFC South, and I think they end up getting a win, but it's not going to be pretty for Jacksonville. Okay, moving over to New England, where the Jets are going to be coming to town to take on the Patriots, and this game is going to be interesting. These two teams are eliminated, so it doesn't really matter, but I am going to take the Jets to win this one because I feel like that Jets defense is just significantly better than the Patriots defense. Plus, I kind of think the Patriots are trying to, tank a little bit more, get a little bit of a better draft pick, and they'll not really try as hard as they probably could. Now we're going to go ahead and move to New Orleans for Falcons Saints, and this game just feels like one that the Falcons, just like I said last week about the Steelers-Seahawks one, this one just feels like one that on paper the Falcons should lose, but they somehow managed to pull off a victory because they've pulled off some pretty questionable wins this year, and I feel like this is going to be one of them for Atlanta at New Orleans, and they will mess up the entire NFC South playoff picture there. Sticking in the NFC South, we're going to Carolina, where the Bucs are going to be coming to town for a critical game. Tampa Bay is a win and in against Carolina, and I feel like this team, Carolina's been surging as of late, and even if Carolina wins, they still have they still give the first overall pick to Chicago, which they wouldn't want to do anyway. So Carolina really doesn't have much to play for here. They're just going to play to try to screw over Chicago, but they can't even do that. I feel like Tampa Bay ends up getting a big win to get their playoff hopes alive because I feel like Tampa Bay is a better team. Carolina's going to try, but there's nothing they can really do. So, all right, here we go. Moving into the 4 o'clock slate of games with the Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This game going to be an interesting one as Chicago trying to play spoiler to the Packers. The Packers are a win and in situation, though, so the Packers are going to be fighting for that win to be able to make the playoffs. But I just feel like Chicago they are surging at the right time. Justin Fields is looking great. And you would do anything to screw over your division rival. So I think the Bears will do everything they can to win this game and screw over the Packers. And the Packers, as a result, will lose in my book. All right, going over to a meaningless game here in Vegas where the Broncos will be coming to town. And at home in Vegas, I think the Raiders will do a good job in getting a big win here. It's going to be meaningless because these teams are eliminated and they cannot have any impact on the playoffs at all. But I feel like the Raiders just are that better team and they will get a big win. Here we go, moving on to Eagles-Giants in New York. This game going to be a big one as the Eagles need a win and a Dallas loss to win the NFC East. And I think that the Eagles do their part to get a big win over the Giants. And it's not even going to really be close in my book. The Eagles have been getting beat up. I feel like they end up getting a big win. But I am getting serious vibes to the 2021 Cardinals of this team. How they started out white hot. And then they fell off at the end of the season. So that might be the situation here with Philadelphia. But I still think they save their season and get a big win here in New York. Moving on to Seattle, Arizona. This game is big as the Seahawks need to win and have, I believe it's just a Packers loss. And they are in. And I feel like Seattle does rise to the occasion, gets the win over Arizona. And in a big way, they get that win. So I feel like the Seahawks win big to keep their playoff hopes alive. Up next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chiefs are pretty much stuck where they're at, but I feel like even the Chiefs' backup jobs will be better than the Chargers. So I feel like the Chargers end up taking another big loss here. Benefits the Chargers as well. They get a better draft pick as a result, and the Chiefs get themselves another win. All right, moving on to the Los Angeles Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers, and this game is massive. The Rams have a win and clinch the 6th seed. Lose, they might go down to the 7th seed. That could be the difference of playing Chicago, or it could be the difference of playing, or not Chicago, it could be the difference of playing the Lions, it could be the difference of playing the Eagles, or even the Cowboys. I mean, it is just, this game will have implications as to who the Rams play in the first round, which could change up the entirety of the NFL playoffs on the NFC side of things. The Niners have the 1 seed locked up, so they probably bench some of their starters after the beginning of that game. Maybe after, first, second quarter. And I feel like on this one, though, the Niners just managed to get that win just because the Niners always win against the Rams in the regular season. The Rams will save it for their playoff matchup where the Rams will hopefully beat them in the playoffs. All right, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Washington Commanders. This game going to be big for the NFC East. Dallas is a win and clinch the East. Lose, and they're basically up in the air depending on if Philadelphia also loses. So I feel like on this one, Dallas does do more than enough to get the job done, and they win big in Washington. Like, it's going to be a 20-point plus blowout. And last but not least, Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. The regular season finale, I feel like they made the wrong choice, but either way, this game going to be big as it is a basically vying for the division. Whoever wins this game wins the division. If Jacksonville wins, then the Steelers need Buffalo to lose. And this is going to be a very interesting game with playoff implications abound. That being said, I do feel like the Dolphins end up getting this win. They tend to win at home against good teams, and Buffalo is kind of on the fringe of being a good team, so at least this year. So I do feel like the Dolphins end up getting a big win. They are 7-1 at home, so I feel like they improve that to 8-1 against the Bills. Alright, well that's about going to do it for me today. If you guys did like, don't forget to smash like and subscribe, as it does help me out a whole lot. It does mean that I'm making content that y'all enjoy, and I should keep doing that. So, yeah, if you haven't already, also make sure you go ahead and check out my power rankings heading into Week 18 down over here. And with that, I will see you guys later. Peace out, and have a good one.